The bloc is seeking a greater voice on global affairs as an alternative to the existing world order.
Sure that we do not become victim to sanctions that have secondary effects on countries that have no involvement in issues that have led to those unilateral sanctions.
It is therefore imperative that BRICS members demonstrate sincerity in regard to reforming global decision-making, including that of the UN Security Council. Excellencies, at the heart of the problems we face is economic concentration that leaves too many nations at the mercy of too few.
Earlier, I spoke to our correspondent Nadine Tehran in Cape Town and asked her what came out of the meeting today.
It sounds like BRICS wants to be a global player now, and they have reiterated that more than 20 other countries want to join them. And already there are several other countries, foreign ministers called the Friends of BRICS, from UAE, Kazakhstan, Argentina, and Egypt, attending these meetings in Cape Town. And the tone is certainly that they want the global economic power to shift further away from the traditional Western world and more towards the multifaceted BRICS bloc. I mean, last night, ministers sent out a joint statement listing 30 points. 7 pages were drawn up yesterday. And the undertones are that BRICS nations envision an ideological multilateral allegiance with BRICS nations and the global South against the unilateral world of the Americans and forces of imperialism. So many of the points were critical of the way the Western world is responding to the war in the Ukraine and its effects on developing nations. In fact, South Africa's Minister Naledi Pandor said the developed world no longer commits to the plight of the poor. And that's the tone, that they want a new order because the developed world doesn't care about the secondary impacts of the sanctions on Russia.
So this bloc is looking to not only expand, but what is it looking to change realistically?
Well, one of the most interesting things is that they are looking at a new shared currency to shield developing countries from the impacts of economic the negative economic impacts of the sanctions. But in the joint statement, they said that they want a reform of the principal organs of the United Nations. Specifically, they want to reform the United Nations Security Council, and they want more developing countries represented. They also want to revitalize the General Assembly of the UN and the Economic and Social Councils of the UN. They were quite critical of the UN, and then they also called for full implementation of the Black Sea Grain Initiative and the memo of understanding between Russia and the UN on promoting Russian food and fertilizers, because many developing nations are depend on Russia for fertilizers, and it's affect agriculture across the continent. They noted that unilateral economic coercive measures like sanctions are in fact in breach of international law. And I'm assuming this refers to the American sanctions on Russia. And they say they support the World Trade Organization's free and fair system with special treatment for developing countries. And they also support the global financial safety net with a new quota-based system that the International Monetary Fund is working on. And China and Russia reiterated the importance of Brazil, India, and South Africa's role in international affairs, and they actually said they want these countries to play a bigger role. Lastly, the ministers called for a strengthening on the system of arms control, and they expressed deep concern about terrorism across Africa.
Nadine Tehran reporting there.